Dice Tower Tonight, episode 116.
Convention discoveries, both new and old.
Welcome to Dice Tower Tonight, a video cast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them. On tonight's show, Crystal and I are back from Dice Tower West, and we're talking about the game discoveries we made there, including a few titles that we rediscovered. Plus, I have a second round of a word game for Crystal and the live chat. We've got recent play sessions to talk about, and our usual shenanigans with the live audience. I'm Eric Summerer, and joining me now, the pom-pom to my Coach Z, it's Crystal Dax.
Did you see that Homestar Runner posted a new video on their YouTube channel today? Because they did.
No, I didn't see that.
It's like a minute long, and it's Homestar taping up dipes, aka diapers, onto the wall to make a sunrise. It's like literally just a minute long. And I have no idea what prompted it or what it's supposed to mean. Like, is Homestar a father now? I don't know, but like, I was very invested in this 1 minute video. And so it is apropos that you chose Homestar Runner characters tonight as our...
Wow. No,
Yeah.
That's really cool. I just picked some, I tried to pick the coolest of the Homestar cast, and then I picked the wackiest one for me, and that was my general approach.
I mean, admittedly, I talk way more than Pom Pom, but I'll take it. I still like Pom Pom's energy.
Pom Pom's always on the phone. Pom Pom's always talking to someone. We just don't hear Pom Pom.
That's true. Pom Pom probably does talk a lot. We just don't understand Pom Pom.
Pom Pom operates on a frequency that we just can't fathom.
Nope. It's too cool for school.
So, as we alluded to in the intro, we are back from Dice Tower West. Crystal and I got to see each other, sometimes in passing, sometimes for longer periods of time. But we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show, because that's our subject of discussion coming up. So we should jump right into some games played. What do you think, Crystal?
Absolutely, and I want to hear what you've been playing, Eric.
I do too, but I totally forgot what we discussed at the beginning of the show where we had a question to ask everybody.
Oh yeah, we do have a
into
question. I should have picked up that ball.
You should have said,
totally
no,
did.
I don't want to hear about the game you played because we have a question. So, folks, thank you for joining us live. We know not everyone can join us live for Dice Tower Tonight, but we appreciate it when you are able to do so. We have a question for you because we shuffled the schedule around just a little bit over the past couple of weeks to avoid the conventions that Crystal and I were going to. But we're trying to figure out when our next episode is going to be. So the big question is, how do you schedule your viewing of Dice Tower Tonight? Do you, perhaps, have all of the Dice Tower Tonight episodes on your calendar and you know that they're every 2 weeks and you've been very confused the last couple of weeks because they haven't been in the proper positions? Or do you just wait for an episode and then know that 2 weeks later we're going to do it again? I'm going to put a straw poll up on... Whoops, that didn't actually... I'm not in the correct... window. All right, there we go. Hey, there we go. So if you could just give a quick vote, and we're going to figure out when we're going to do the next episode. Will it be in 1 week? Will it be in 2 weeks? How do you schedule your Dice Tower Tonight viewing?
And I do also, before you talk about your game, Eric, I do want to give a really big thank you to a bunch of you because we've had people come up to us over the years, at conventions and other spaces and tell us that they watch the show and they love the show. And that has never happened nearly as much as it did at this particular convention. I was approached by a lot of people, including one very memorable little girl named Alex, who I want to give a shout out to, along with her mom and dad, who were delightful, who said that they watched the show and really enjoy it. And I just wanted to say how much I really appreciated hearing from all of you at the convention. So thank you for that.
Very, very cool. All right, now we should move on to some game playing. So a few weeks ago, Tom and the Florida crew hosted one of the creators of South Park, Trey Parker, who is a noted board gamer, and he presented his top 10 games. And he had a few games on his list that I was not as familiar with, and my wife was not as familiar with. And one of those is a game called Summit. This was his number one game. It's from Inside Up Games, Connor McGooey, or McGoey. I know Connor's first name. He gives me hugs at conventions. This was his number one game. Trey Parker's number one game. And so my wife, Stephanie, heard this and said, "You must acquire this game for me to play this game." She said it just like that. You must acquire this game for me to play this game so that I may see how this game works. And it's an old enough game that it was kind of hard to find. So I managed to have a friend let me borrow a copy of Summit so that I could actually give it a whirl. Summit is a game about climbing a mountain. You are trying to reach the summit of that mountain. And there's two ways to play. You can play competitively or cooperatively in this game. We played it competitively because that's the way that... we played cooperatively because that's the way Steph wanted to play it. If you're playing competitively, so this is the board, and it's only half the board because I need to flip it over. Ordinarily, you're climbing this mountain, and you're trying to reach the top, and you have this karma track if you're playing competitively. I wasn't worried about that. I was worried about this side of the board over here. Don't break it. And this side has Sherpas. So you are an explorer, and if you're playing the cooperative mode, you're working with a team of explorers, and the job is to get at least one person to the top and back down. As long as whoever makes it to the top makes it back to base camp, you win the game. Anybody else can be left up there. It's okay. You still win.
Survival of the fittest.
There's a scoring at the end, but yeah. So the Sherpas carry some extra oxygen and food and a couple of items, and you can exchange stuff with them, but it takes an action to do so. And that's important because you have to manage that. One of your resources is the number of turns you are spending on the mountain. You're placing... Let's back up. You've got your explorer, and you have a special ability, and you've got all these sliders that you put cubes inside. And so at the beginning of the game, you choose how much food you're going to carry. You choose how much oxygen you're going to carry. And the more stuff you carry, the slower you're going to move. You've got all these, so you can see these little dumbbell symbols. And the more you move along this track, the more dumbbells you're going to hit. And then you've got a dumbbell track. And the more you move along the dumbbell track, the more feet icons you're going to cross. And the more feet icons you cross, the slower you're going to go. It's kind of a fiddly system. There's a lot of moving stuff where I move this, which moves this, which moves this. Ultimately, the more you're carrying, the slower you're going to go. And the more injuries you take, the slower you're going to go. And you need to move fast enough to get up and down the mountain. Although, look at this. Now that I'm holding this, look at that illustration. Come on, get in there. Get real close. It's super creepy. Why does he have no eyes? I don't know why. I want to draw pupils in, but this isn't my copy of the game. Although I did rebag it. Have you ever done that? Like, if you took total tangent, if you take a game out of the library or something and realize this is not organized correctly, do you rebag it and reset it up like that? Have you ever done that?
I mean, absolutely. And I also will sometimes... I don't think I've ever done this with anything in the Dice Tower library specifically, but like I have in other instances like bagged things more efficiently, like because especially if like somebody else checked a game out and they kind of threw a couple different types of tokens into one bag just kind of hurriedly, I will attempt to sort that stuff out and fix it so that the next person who checks the game out will have an easier time of it.
I may or may not have totally rebagged the library copy of Merchant of Venus at Dice Tower West. Let's just say I didn't. Anyway, let's back to Summit. So you're playing these triangular tiles, which are an interesting shift in a tile-laying game. And there's 3 different types of these tiles. You have standard-looking tiles, which just has brown rope, just regular. And you've got these ice tiles, which don't do anything particularly special, but they have more knots, and each of those knots in the rope are a space. So this is a slower tile to go through because it's an ice tile. You have to be more careful. And then the last one is these yellow tiles, which don't have many knots, but you require oxygen to go through them. It's like a thin air tile.
I was going to say, it looks like a spider tile from my vantage point.
It does. It's got these symbols that make it looks like spiders, but it's like cracks, I think. I don't know.
I mean,
they look
spider
like spiders.
tiles.
Anyway, in order to avoid the spiders, you have to spend oxygen. So You are playing tiles from your hand. You're moving up the mountain, and of course you only have so many of these, so you might have to play a yellow or a blue tile. You can't rely totally on just the browns. You've got equipment that lets you break rules, and you're trading resources with your Sherpa. Every turn, though, you have to roll a weather die, which is going to make you spend extra food, or possibly have a blizzard, which is going to force everyone to spend food, and it gets progressively worse as time goes by. And you pull an event card, and those things can range anywhere from you found some supplies on the mountain, they're frozen, but they're useful, or there's some sort of major event and you slide down the mountain, you're going to do all sorts of ridiculous things. And ultimately, I think that's where all the variation of this game comes in. Because you've got not only a die roll, but also the draw of those events. And so you can have a game where things go swimmingly for you. And you can have a game where everything goes wrong. And I'm not sure if that's something I really like in my co-op games where everything is so swingy. We played a few two-player games. And I think it is actually easier in a two-player game to coordinate a little bit better, make sure you're not leaving anybody behind, and we had a relatively easy time working up and down the mountain. I think with more players drawing more of those events, you're going to have a more swingy, chaotic time going up and down the mountain. So I guess I would like to try it with more people, but this isn't really my style of cooperative game, I think. I think I want it to be a little more controlled. I'd like the system to have a little more transparency as to what's coming up for me. And this is a lot of luck of the draw. It is, because of that, a very difficult game if you're going to be running into those really nasty events, or you roll a blizzard every time, which is, you could do it. You could roll a blizzard half of your rolls. It's only one of the 6 sides. But so is the nothing bad happens. And that can come up just as often as a blizzard. So if you get a bunch of the nothing bad happens, you just sort of skate up and down the mountain. So my wife, I think, likes it better than I do. Summit is an interesting game, and it's got some cool stuff going on, but I did find it a little fiddly and a little swingy. So I might swing toward other co-ops for me personally, but that's Summit.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I saw them demoing it at PAX Unplugged, and I was definitely curious about it since I typically enjoy cooperative games. So it's nice to hear your take on it.
Very, very cool.
Well, I was happy that a game that I own but had not learned yet, someone else had a copy of it, Dice Tower West, and kindly taught it to me. As it turns out, it's a fairly simple game. I just hadn't learned it yet. And that is the trick-taking game Haifu, spelled Hiiffuu. This one, I am not certain of the publisher. It's an icon on the box. It's not words. I can probably look in the English rulebook and see. The development of the game, it says, is by Fukuru Tauro. Oh gosh, I'm going to butcher anything that I say about this game, but it was designed by Yazaman Matsumoto. And I got my copy from Big Cat Games, which localizes a lot of Asian games and brings them over and distributes them here in the States. So that is how I got my copy of the game. Haifu is a trick taker that is for only 4 or 5 players, cannot be played with less or more. And the deck consists, so for those of you who are not familiar with trick-taking games, the ones that are most commonly known by a lot of gamers would be games like Hearts or Spades, where everyone plays out one card, and then based on the highest value card of the lead suit, generally, that player will take all of the cards, and that is considered to be a trick. I always try and make sure I explain that, because not everybody plays trick-taking games. But the deck consists of 4 suits or colors that range from 1 to 15, and mine are all sorted at the moment because I've never actually played my own copy of the game. And the colors are dual coded with symbology in the corners. I can kind of grab a couple of them to show. So it is colorblind friendly in that regard. If you look at where the numbers are in the corners, the outlines of those numbers have different things on them, like a starburst or little glitchy looking thing or whatever. So it is dual coded, which is good.
That's
for
very
colorblind
subtle
friendly.
though. It's not like they jammed a symbol in there. It's just the border of the corner.
Yeah.
That's neat.
but they're all fairly distinct, which is kind of neat. It's not obtrusive, but it's still clear, which
Yeah.
is kind of nice. So in Haifu, depending on the number of players, you will be dealt a number of cards, and then before you start gameplay, you have to discard a number of cards from your hand. The other players do not get to see what you've discarded, and you don't get to see what they've discarded. So you're already starting from a place of limited information at the beginning of the game. There will be a total of 9 hands played, or 9 tricks played every single round. There are a total of 5 rounds in the game. Your goal is to win 2 tricks and 2 tricks only. Not 1, not 0, not more than 2.
Okay.
Exactly 2. And so in a 4-player game, that means at least one person is not going to hit that goal. And in a 5-player game, who knows? Because again, only 9 tricks. So it could swing any number of ways depending on how many tricks everyone picks up.
Okay.
There is a point tracker, and you'll have a little meeple that you keep on that. First player to hit 10 points will win the game. And the points each round change. It's different based on the number of players, but there's always 5 rounds. What's interesting about this is you get more points if you hit your 2 tricks later in the round as opposed to earlier. So the first person to hit 2 tricks gets their little meeple up on the top spot for that particular round. Then the next player to hit 2, and so on and so forth. But if you ever go beyond 2, then your meeple gets laid down and you do not get any points for the round. So as the rounds progress, the point values for things change. And I love trick-taking games, and I love unique trick-taking games. And this one instantly made me fall in love with it, because when you are only going to take 2 tricks potentially, and you don't know what cards the other players have discarded, like there were multiple instances where one player would play out a 3, and then someone would play the 2 and the 1, and all of a sudden a person sitting with only like a 5 in a particular suit would take that trick. And obviously you're never assuming you're going to take a trick with a 5, and when you can only take 2, but it's, sloughing off cards, off-suit or off-color cards in other tricks is really important. And the scoring is super interesting. If you like quirky trick-taking games, this is definitely one to take a look at. I am very happy that I own it, and I am looking forward to playing it more. I will admit, getting 4 or 5 players exactly together to play trick-taking games tends to be difficult for me, because my game group I think they're fine with trick takers, but that's not the type of game we tend to gravitate toward. So I'm going to have to kind of like shove this one in at some game. Not I'm going to be like, we're going to play a trick taking game, and they'll be fine with it. But it's not what we tend to think of typically. So I'm really excited that I got to learn it and play it. Here's the little meeples in case anybody wanted to see those. Like, for a tiny box game, it's got some nice little components too. It's not just cards. So yeah, that is Haifu.
Interesting. The double I's make it look. Jerry in the chat is saying maybe it should be he-fu.
Oh, maybe.
Because if it's Japanese, the I sound is an E, so he-fu.
Okay. That is entirely possible, and I apologize for my bad Japanese pronunciation.
It's okay. You weren't in class this week, so.
Or ever, for that matter.
I think it's time to play a game with the chat. What do you think?
I think that sounds like a great idea.
We're going to bring back a favorite. We were sort of discussing what we wanted to do for this one, and I had wanted to give this one another whirl. Chat did very well, if I recall correctly, when we played Mystic Paths a few weeks ago. This is from R&R Games. This is a party game, cooperative game, where you have multiple players trying to follow multiple paths through a forest, and those paths are represented by waypoints that are words, and so you're giving clues to get people through the words. I'm going to show you, just in case our webcam decides to be wonky, I took a nice little picture of, where are you? It's this one. This is the board that we're looking at. So, I have randomized this board of Mystic Paths. And your job, I have in my hand, and you can't see it because you're not looking at my camera right now, I have a path card that tells me I need to guide you along a certain route, starting with that first word, bubble wrap. That is the number 1 space. And I have to get you to follow the proper path to get to all the different words that I need you to get to. I will do this by giving you clue cards. And we'll get to those in a second. And you, Crystal, is, of course, the ultimate decider, but you, chat, are going to help her, guide her through this path by looking at the clues that I give and guiding her in the proper direction. So one lovely thing that we can do while looking at the screenshot right now is that we can read all the words that are here on the board. So we have bubble wrap right in front of our player. You've got atomic bomb, Count Chocula, and kayak forming that first arc. Then we have clowns, giraffe, Muppets, yo-yo, and earphones forming the next arc. Elves, pyramids of Giza, Colosseum, clown nose, and Napoleon. And all the way on the top, diapers, Shakespeare, gingerbread man, GPS, and frozen dinner. As we work our way through the board, there is no set endpoint. You don't know where number 10 is. There's 10 possible steps. Better camera work. Well, yes, Kabuki, this is just a still shot I took with my iPhone. But we're gonna do the live shot in just a second. So you don't know where I'm going to end up, but I can never backtrack. So once you successfully take a step, you know that the reverse is not one of your options for taking a step. The chat did play this once before, and we're going to see if you can do just as well this time. So we're going to bring up my full shot and see how... that's not terrible. Okay. And we can add just a little more light and get that a little clearer. All right. So your first set of clues, and you get to look at the first three. I'm actually going to move this just a hair this way so you can see all three clues. All right. The first one's the one that has a little bit of glare on it, so I'll hold that right up to the camera here. That is questionable. Questionable is your first clue. Your second clue is antique, and your third clue is playful. And you are standing currently on bubble wrap. So your first step is going to be atomic bomb, Count Chocula, or kayak. Crystal and chat, take it away.
I mean, well, first off, if we're standing on bubble wrap, I want to dance around a little bit and pop some of it, and then then we can make some decisions. So questionable being the first one. I mean, I'm going to see what chat says, but I cannot fathom that a kayak would be considered questionable. Count Chocula, maybe, but I don't think you would call Count Chocula questionable, whereas an atomic bomb is certainly questionable in my mind for a number of reasons. So I'm gonna wait till the chat catches up and see. Oh, and see, and Pips in Space said, I'm thinking not atomic bomb. And then Dominique said Count Chocula. Okay, Gator Dave, frozen dinner. We're not next to frozen dinner yet. We'll get there though, eventually. One more person saying Chocula. Why is Count Chocula questionable? I don't understand. And then here's the thing, we also have to look at where we would be going next. So in theory, with the next word being antique, ooh, you guys might be right that it's Count Chocula because there's nothing really antique feeling next to atomic bomb in my mind. So I might actually go, questionable is a good cereal. That might be the case. I don't think I've ever eaten Count Chocula. Wait, that's not the cereal name though. What's the cereal called?
It is Count Chocula, yes. The cereal
it is Count Chocula. Oh, so the mascot and the cereal have the same name. That's not usually the case, I don't think. But we will go with Count Chocula for our first guess.
Final answer on Count Chocula?
Final answer.
That is incorrect.
Oh no!
So,
chat, you led me astray.
So this is what happens if you. So that was round one.
Okay.
So that's fine. We're already. It's the handicap that we're giving ourselves for this second run. We're just trying to make it. We're playing on hard mode, shall we? So,
yeah, totally fine.
Okay, so I need to give you 3 new cards for these two. I'm just gonna hide this so I have some room to put stuff. We'll put round 2 over here. So now I have to give you new clues to try and get you. I had 1 card left from the 4 I started with, and now I have to. Oh boy. Okay. Well, I'm gonna I'm going to put the word complex
Okay.
on number 1.
Okay.
And cover up the not that word. Yeah, and I think ba-dum. Okay. So spicy, but I am going to put the not symbol on it. So not
Okay.
spicy.
Okay.
And then not important for question number 3.
Okay. So I think my original assumption is correct, that atomic bomb is the very first one, and then Count Chocula would be our second, and then the third, not important but playful, would likely be the yo-yo. So that is where my head is at. I'm going to give the chat a few seconds. I know that there's a delay on YouTube, and so I want to see if they are in line with me. Although, chat, you're gonna have to make it up to me, because you've led me astray once already. So, yep. Okay. So Alex Bach says maybe it was atomic bomb, Count Chocula, then yo-yo. All right. Yes, multiple people in chat are agreeing. So we will say our first one is atomic bomb, Eric.
Atomic bomb is correct. So I'm going to put this little thing where you came from, so you know that's not one of your options. So you got number 1. Wow, I just threw that on the floor. Yeah, let's throw it on the floor.
I do that during our show way more often than you probably realize. I throw things on the floor accidentally all the time.
So number 2?
Number 2, not spicy and antique. We're going to go with Count Chocula.
Count Chocula is correct. Well done. Your little thing goes there now. So bubble wrap is technically an option for this next step.
Okay.
And last but not least, number 3.
Not important but playful. Ooh, that could be either bubble wrap or yo-yo. And those are like bubble wrap can be very important though, because it helps protect packages. Whereas a yo-yo really, while they can do some cool tricks, they're not important in any real meaningful way, I don't think. So, yeah, y'all, Eric would never call the Muppets not important. That's not even a consideration for me. Like, I cannot fathom a world in which Eric says the Muppets are not important. So we're not going. Yeah, Hornets in the chat says Muppets are important. They are. All right, chat agrees. We're going with yo-yo.
Excellent. Yo-yo is also correct.
Awesome.
So it took us 2 rounds, but we made it the 3 steps we needed to make. Throw those on the floor. All right, so now we're going to be looking at 4, 5, and 6. There are, once again, 10 steps that we're trying to get through and 5 rounds of play. We're now in round 3. All right, so now I got to look at my new cards, figure out what my clues are going to be. And the tricky part is you might find a really good... Oh, man, is that really the path I have to send you on? That is not fair.
Well, while you're figuring out your clues, Eric, I'm actually going to go back and answer a question that Kabuki Kid asked about He-Fu earlier. And that was, Kabuki, since I purchased the game from Big Cat Games, and they are localizing Asian games in America, or they're bringing games over, if a game that they sell does not automatically include English rules, they usually... insert them. They give you the English rules along with the game. So I believe every game I've received from them has had English rules with the game, even if the game did not originally come with them. And I think that's also really cool. I think it's bigcatgames.biz maybe is their website. If you search Big Cat Games on Google, I'm sure you'll find them. And they're wonderful, and I highly recommend. If you're looking for Asian games, it's a good place to go.
Kooky is your next
Kooky.
clue. Kooky.
Okay.
That's number 4. Number 5, I'm going to say tender.
Tender.
And number 6 is broken, but I'm going to put the X on it. So not
the
broken.
not broken. Okay. So the issue with kooky is that could very easily be both Muppets and clown nose. So I'm going to look at number 2, the tender clue, and see if that will help me figure it out. So if we move up to clown nose, very little around that is striking me as being tender. Because we wouldn't, okay, so then if we move over to Muppets, and I know you're working with limited clues, Eric, so your choices are potentially not ideal. I mean, I guess I would consider a giraffe to be tender, because they seem to be quite docile generally, at least when I've seen them in zoos. I know you can hand feed them. They have cool, long, black tongues. So then in theory, if we went with that and then we went to not broken, the pyramids of Giza still exist, and they've been around for a very long time. So I want to know, chat, what are your thoughts on Muppets, giraffe, pyramids of Giza? Those are my thoughts. I would like you all to let me know whether you think I've screwed it up royally. Let's see. Kabuki says giraffes can be seen as having tender temperaments. Okay, good. Let's see. A giraffe can be tender. Good logic. I'm in, Crystal, says Kabuki. Yes, Corley, we're playing Mystic Paths again. And everybody likes giraffe for tender. Yeah, the thing is that because the clown nose works great for kooky, but I don't see anything that I would consider to be tender around it. So let's see. Alex says Muppets clown nose GPS. I mean, a clown nose, I guess it's soft, so maybe could be tender. Okay, multiple people have said Muppets, Giraffe, Giza. They like it. We're gonna say our first one is Muppets, Eric.
Muppets is correct.
Okay.
So that's number 4. Go away, card.
And then we will say giraffe for our second.
A valid attempt, but incorrect. So those move up, and now we move on to round 4. This is getting dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. I'm definitely going to go with amusing for clue number 5.
Okay.
And I want to save that one. Actually, okay. Yeah. Oh, that would be good for later. No, that would be terrible. That's really not good. Okay, forget it. Forget I did that. That would be
don't pull a code names. I've definitely in the past been like, this clue is perfect, and then I realized I pointed people right to the assassin, you know?
Oh, boy.
Yes, chat, I agree with you all that we're going to be moving to Clown Nose next, but we got to let Eric put out the rest of his clues, and then we'll see what's happening.
Number 7 is not ugly.
Not ugly. Okay, so we've got amusing and tender as our first step, not broken as our second, and not ugly as the third. We are going to say Clown Nose for amusing and tender.
And not mediocre.
Not mediocre.
Is, there we go. So you said
cool.
Clown Nose is step 5?
Clown Nose.
Clown Nose is correct for step 5. There go those cards.
Hornist, I'm wearing my It's Fine shirt right now, too. So here, I've got... Oh, you can't see me on camera. Never mind. I'm wearing it.
I saw it.
Yeah, you did. You saw it. Okay, so from Clown Nose, we're moving to something that is not mediocre and not broken. Okay, it's not a frozen dinner, because I would say most people would describe frozen dinners as mediocre. So the fact that you put not on there means it's not a frozen dinner. Not broken. Yeah, the Colosseum is definitely not broken or mediocre, Liz. And I think, yeah, Alex also says could be Colosseum. GPS and then Gingerbread Man. Oh gosh. GPS is amazing and unbroken. Well, sometimes, says Coraloo. The current state of the Colosseum is broken, says Coraloo, but it's not broken. Well, that's helpful. It's both broken and not broken. I think I like GPS the most. Not mediocre, not broken. Colosseum could be considered broken. It could also, but it's still, does it exist still? Like, I don't actually, the Roman Colosseum, I mean, it's, okay, so let's.
Gonna have to take a stab.
Yeah. Let's go GPS, Eric.
GPS is correct.
Woohoo!
That's number 6.
Okay, so then we only have a couple of options here for not ugly. And I would say frozen dinners are definitively ugly also. They are never attractive looking. So I'm going to eliminate that as an option. So then it's just gingerbread man or the Colosseum. I think both of those things could be considered not ugly, depending on your perspective. Oh gosh. And if I get this wrong, then we can't get to step 10.
We can't get to 10, but we'll do the best we can.
Right. Chat. Oh, Coraloo didn't understand the little token that meant not. So we're good now. Perfect. Okay. Not ugly. I mean, a cookie is not ugly. Liz says gingerbread man. I also think gingerbread man. Liz and I say gingerbread man, Eric.
Gingerbread man is incorrect.
Oh no! Okay, maybe we can make it to step 9.
All right, we're going to try, in round 5, we can get that far. Maybe I'll give you the clue that I was going to give you, but I have to give you a clue for 4, too, or for 7.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. All right, well.
Well, you know what, Jerry? I think your son made a good vote in voting for gingerbread man. I agreed. We were just wrong.
All right, I'm giving you the clues for the other ones first. And then, so short is 8.
Okay.
Soft is 9.
Ooh, okay.
And I'm gonna say accomplished is 10.
Oh, we're gonna kind of go for it.
I'm gonna give it to you. Yeah, might as well. And
Liz, you could never fail me, for the record.
Boy, oh boy, I'm just not gonna give you a clue. I think you've got 7.
Okay. Yeah. So we're gonna say Colosseum for not ugly for step number 7.
Yeah. Colosseum is correct. And,
okay.
And I'm totally cheating at this point. I should not be able to give you a number 10, but I want.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Have we ever played any game exactly by its rules on here on Dice Tower Tonight?
Rules. All right. So short.
We're just board gamers. Rules aren't important.
Number 8. That's a totally different discussion.
Okay, so short.
I thought the Colosseum was impressive. There's beauty in those ruins.
Yeah. No, it was a good clue. I could have gone either way there.
Also, I only had 8 words to choose from to give you 4 of 3 of them.
Jerry, I don't think the pyramids of Giza are short.
Hang on. That's supposed to be a not short.
Oh, maybe Jerry was then predicting correct. So not short. So then it's not gingerbread man, because a gingerbread man would definitely be short. I don't. Oh gosh. So it could be. Ooh, it could be pyramids, diapers, Shakespeare, right? Chat. If we go not short, pyramids, soft diapers, accomplished Shakespeare. What do y'all think? Okay, I'm seeing pyramids. Pyramids. We're going with pyramids, Eric.
Pyramids is correct for step 8. Coraloo asked a question. It is possible you can't backtrack directly, but you can recross a path. Some cards will do that.
Okay. And then, okay, Kabuki Kid says they're in with my logic again. Yes, so Alex also agrees diapers and then Shakespeare. So yes, we're going to go with diapers next, Eric, for number 9.
Diapers is correct, but Coraloo just threw out some really good logic that would have been very saying soft for Muppets and accomplished. If we're talking about the cellist Yo-Yo Ma, that would have actually been quite a good clue if that had been my path, but it's not.
Yeah, I was honestly
9.
not even considering the cellist when I was thinking of Yo-Yo. So, based on where we're at now, I'm going to say that Shakespeare is most definitely accomplished.
Shakespeare is the path.
Huzzah!
That's where we needed to go, and thanks to our bending of the rules just a little bit, we managed to do it. Well done, chat. Well done, Crystal. That is a game of Mystic Paths.
Awesome. Eric, do you want to drop that straw poll in the chat one more time? We did have some people that showed up a little bit late. No judgment, but we want to make sure you all have the chance to weigh in on when our next episode is going to be. We're trying to decide whether we're going to revert back to our normal bi-weekly schedule, which would mean we have an episode again in 1 week, or whether we stay on this new schedule that got kind of flipped around because of all the conventions happening. Right. If y'all have not voted yet in that straw poll, please do. And it, as of right now, well, I don't want to say what's winning right now in case that affects anything. Yeah, I don't want to influence anything. We want you all to.
The ceiling. Hang on. There we go. One of these days, I'll get a second webcam, Crystal.
I mean, I have like 3, but 2 of them are upstairs at my other streaming station because I'm weird and extra.
Stephanie has one, but I don't know if she uses it for work. She might not like it if I borrow it.
Yeah.
Anyway, right. We should talk about our discussion topic for today. As we said at the top of the show, we got to see each other, which doesn't happen. I mean, we get to see each other because we're looking at each other right now, but in person, got to see each other this past week at Dice Tower West, which just happens to be in your hometown of Las Vegas, Nevada, and had a grand time playing some games. And while, we often do just a standard recap, I thought we'd try and focus it a little. This is going to end up being a Dice Tower West recap, but try and talk about some of the games that we discovered at the con this time that were new to us, got us excited, or that we rediscovered and had maybe forgotten about and got to play another round of this time.
Absolutely. And I think you and I did not end up getting to play any games together, though.
We literally did not play anything together. We sort of hovered over each other's games a little bit, and we hung out at shows and around, but no.
I got to take you to my favorite restaurant again.
Yes, indeed. The Cornish pasty place, which is lovely. Really good stuff. And stuff.
I saw that Corey and Bonacore and a bunch of other people went there after the con, and I'm the one who introduced Corey to that place too.
Yep.
And then the brothers Murph also took their Kickstarter backers to Cornish pasty. So I'm slowly making everyone that's coming to Dice Tower West learn about Cornish pasty and go there.
You're converting them. I mean, this is not a walking distance from the strip sort of place. You have to get an Uber or know someone who's local and head on over there. But it was lovely. So we had wonderful times. But speaking of games, so I guess I'll talk about one of the older games that I found. One of the nice things about the Dice Tower West library, even more so than the one that I'm more familiar with, the East/Cruise/ East Coast library, is there is a lot more classic game material in the Dice Tower West library. Some that I would say is maybe a little too much classic stuff. There's a whole shelf of Monopoly, people. There's a lot of Monopoly. It's like a mini Monopoly collection. Okay, there were lots of copies of Risk, including some very old versions like Castle Risk and some variants and stuff, but some older German games. Back when Mayfair was, well, one, a company, and two, all they were doing was importing stuff. And they would just print a rule book and stick it in the shrink wrap. And so you got a German copy of the game with some English rules. And the English rules would reference illustrations in the German rules. Like, if you look in the top left corner of page 3, you'll see the example we're talking about. It's that kind of this is how it was done in the mid '90s. So I played a game called Linie Eins, Linie, and then the numeral 1. It came to the U.S. from Mayfair as Streetcar, but the German version with like a larger board is Linie Eins. And it is a route building game where you're running a streetcar, you're trying to build a streetcar network, but everyone is trying to build a streetcar network, and everyone has a different streetcar line, and everybody has different locations that they need to tag on the board. And so it's a tile laying game. You're playing these tiles, and everything you do is going to affect what everyone else can do. And you can't make just straight left and right turns. You have to make curves. You can replace tiles, but only by maintaining what's already there. So if there's a straight, but you need it to turn, you can play a tile that will turn in this direction as long as it also can go straight. If you can't do that, then you can't make that happen. And so you have to preserve all of the existing connections while getting it to go in the direction you want. As soon as you put a track next to one of the locations that need to be tagged, that's where that bus stop is, which might be on the totally opposite side of that location than you want it to be. So now you have to make a big loop to make the stop on the IKEA. There's an IKEA on the board. And then once you're done doing all the tile laying, then comes the race portion where you do a roll and move and start your train car moving along. So some people are running their car while people are still trying to lay the track in their couple of turns. It is bonkers. It was a blast. It's mean, but in a fun way, as you play a tile and somebody's like, "What? Why would you do that?" Because it makes sense to me right now. I'm like, no, it doesn't. What kind of an urban planner are you? So I was a little disappointed to come home and realize that I, at some point over the years, got rid of my copy of Streetcar, so I can't recreate this until I revisit the Dice Tower West library. But Linie Eins, or Streetcar, was a wonderful thing to get a chance to play again.
That's awesome. So I actually got to play a game that I had never heard of before, and I guess I could look up when it actually was published. I'm going to click over to that real quick. So it was published in 2011, so 11 years ago, and it's called Kolecha, which every time I've said that over the course of the past week, people have said, "God bless you," because it sounds like I'm sneezing. Kolecha is a Polish word that means queuing, as in standing in line, or at least that's what I was told. Technically, I have not verified that information, but it was a game that was at least partially funded by the Polish government, and what it does is it recreates 1980s post-Cold War Poland, when a lot of resources and material goods were very, very scarce. It is a worker placement game where you are putting out your meeples into different lines for different types of goods, such as clothing, food, electronics, other things like that. And each round, a very limited number of actual things come out onto the board. In fact, some of the lines, each round, get absolutely nothing. So you may be standing in a line that day will get no deliveries. And so each round you are vying for position by playing cards from your hand to modify the position of your meeples, or to modify what goods are coming out, or which lines they end up in. And then at the end of each round or day, you can choose to pull some of your meeples back, but in a lot of instances, you might have better position in a line, and you are now thinking, okay, well, maybe clothes will come out tomorrow, and so do I leave my meeple here in second position in that line in the hopes that I'll get something? Each player has a goal card with a specific number of different types of goods that they need to collect, and the first player to do that wins the game. It did feel a little luck dependent based on which good cards come out. My specific goal card needed 4 of one type of good, and that type of good was just not coming out at all. So at times it felt a little frustrating, but thematically that makes a lot of sense. So I think as a game that, kind of teaches about a moment in history, it is entirely successful. And it is still enjoyable to play. Like, it's a good game. It has never been published in English, but you can get copies that come with English stickers for the cards that you can put over the Polish text. There's still a lot of Polish text that's just flavor text that does not have stickers for it. And I actually would really love to know what some of the other things on the board and the cards say. But all of the functional text you can get stickers for. You can... it's just, yeah, it's a really fun game, and I enjoyed it a lot. Casey and Miguel from Brain in a Jar are the ones who taught it to me, and I was really grateful that they did.
Excellent, excellent. So I found 2 games this week that were ones that I immediately had to run out and get. I try not to do that, but it happens, and one of them was a lovely little tile laying game called Mini Golf Designer, which reminds me a lot of King Domino, one of the games that you really, really like, Crystal. And it has tile drafting very similar to that, so you'll be in a turn order and be drafting tiles. And then based on how you drafted, which tiles you drafted, that's the turn order for the future. For the next round, and you're drafting these tiles, not just making a grid of landscapes in like a square, but you're making a mini golf course with holes and jumps and water features and trees and all sorts of stuff that then has to flow from one. You want the hole of one to lead to the tee of the next, and have it make a loop and be next to your entrance, and all these. You have a blueprint that you have to complete and try and make a mini golf course make sense, which is really cool. I like how it all comes together. It has that visceral sense that makes them all. It makes what you're doing make sense as you're doing the mechanisms of the game. And even though there's a lot to worry about, it's all falls under that umbrella of I'm making a mini golf course. And so I went to their website and immediately ordered a copy, which should be on the way at some point. They just had a second edition show up. So I'm excited to play with the family, Mini Golf Designer.
Yeah, that's one that definitely interests me a lot. And I was hoping to maybe get a chance to play it at the con, and I did not get the chance yet, but at some point I'm definitely going to seek that one out.
Yes, yes.
All right, so for me, when we talk about discovering and rediscovering, I have a game that kind of technically covers both of those things, because you all have heard me talk here on the show over the past year and a half that I discovered a love for the classic board game Caylus over the course of the pandemic. I've only played Caylus on Board Game Arena, and Board Game Arena has the original version of Caylus, and I had never played Caylus 1303, the newer version of the game that streamlined some things. And so I was happy to find a group of people who were willing to tackle Caylus 1303 with me during the con. Yep. So I both discovered Caylus 1303 and kind of rediscovered, because it is very similar, obviously, to the original Caylus. Caylus and Caylus 1303 are worker placement games in which you are collecting resources and building buildings and building a castle. And it's all very boringly themed and not that interesting to look at necessarily, although I will say the artwork on the newer edition is definitely nicer. There's no Dour King on the cover of the box. And I really wanted to try 1303 because it is more readily available and therefore easier to theoretically add to my collection. So I wanted to know which version of the game I liked best. Okay. Having played Caylus a lot of times and now having played Caylus 1303 once, I can definitively say that I want to get original Caylus. I do not want to get 1303. And that's not a criticism of 1303. I actually think 1303 is more streamlined and more approachable and easier to teach to new players because it takes out coin as a currency in the game. In the original, you have to pay a coin every time you place a worker. And in the newer edition of the game, your workers are basically your currency. And when you run out of them, you run out of the ability to place them. And so if things cost more, instead of having to just place a meeple and pay a coin, you place a meeple and pay another meeple into another area. So the meeples are your currency and also your workers in that regard. But there are also player powers, which are pretty cool and give you some neat abilities that can be stolen. And where everyone told me for years and years, Kalis is a mean game. The Provost is mean.
Yep.
I have never played with a group of people that, like, all of the meanness of the Provost is predictable. You know what's coming. If you put all your workers in front of the Provost and don't go to the spot that also lets you move the Provost, someone else is going to go there and prevent you from using those spots. And it feels like, well, that was obvious.
Sure.
Whereas stealing other players' player powers felt just plain mean. And I didn't enjoy that part of it, even though I actually benefited from it during the game. So while 1303 does streamline some things and has cooler artwork and is potentially more approachable, I'm now in the market for an old copy of Kalis. I don't care which box cover I get, Dower King or the one that's a little prettier of the original edition. But that is what I will be seeking out, even though it is out of print, because I still love it so very much.
Indeed. So I've got one more that I already mentioned. I had to, and I just pulled the trigger on today because they are in the middle of their Kickstarter late backer system, and that is Mind Management. This is a hidden movement game, a one versus many game. One player is basically hiding and trying to tag locations around a grid board, and the other players are trying to catch them and prevent them from tagging all those locations. It has a very distinctive graphical feel. It's based on a set of graphic novels. It's got hidden messages all over it, but ultimately the gameplay is really solid. It's a very straightforward hidden movement game, and the logic of how the other players are trying to catch the one player is really cool. And I love those discussion moments. I think that so-and-so is over here, and why that all makes sense is really interesting. And the way it's all presented is so distinctive. Like I mentioned that the one player is trying to tag locations, and they are given cards that say these are the symbols you need to touch. And they've got a deck of cards that randomizes that. And that deck of cards could have been just a bunch of blank background and symbols on it, illustrations, but instead they went full out. It's like close-ups of news articles, spy photographs, found objects that have the symbols circled in crayon and stuff. And each one of these cards looks completely different, but it all comes together to say these are the objects you need to tag. Stuff like that makes this game work so well on a aesthetic level for me, and so I had to back the late pledge on this. My son really loves Stop Thief in one versus many mode, and I think he is going to adore Mind Management when we finally get a copy of that. So that was the other one that they absolutely sold me on, and I'm already feeling bad because I spent money.
Well, you don't have to feel as bad as me, because I hadn't even played it and I backed the most recent Kickstarter. So I just really like hidden movement games, and based on the fact that I like them and the buzz and hype that I had heard, I was like, chances are this is going to be one that'll be a winner for me. So I backed it as well.
Yes, well, I think you'll like it. I really enjoyed it, played it on both sides, both as the one and on the Seekers, and really liked it. So hopefully you will too.
That's awesome. Well, I did get to play a few games that were not new to me, or I got to teach some games at the con, which was really awesome. I got to teach French Toast because my copy of that finally arrived. I showed you all during our last episode. That's the package I stole off of my old house's porch. And I taught that a lot. People were really into French Toast. I taught Strike a whole bunch of times, which will surprise no one. And then I also got to teach Return to Dark Tower, which was great because it was only my second play with my copy of the game, even though I've played the game itself now a bunch of times throughout its development. And today in the mail, Eric, I got...
Oh, hello.
The Alliances expansion and the Dark Horde expansion with all the minis.
It's unfortunately hard to see with the shrink wrap on it, but those things are amazing.
I am so excited. So yeah, I'm going to play that more. But one other game that I got to try for the first time that I wanted to mention was Paint the Roses, which is, it got kickstarted a few months back from North Star Games. And it is a cooperative deduction game where you are placing out flowers into the Queen of Hearts garden, and then all of the players each round have one card in their hand that has a rule on it, and whenever tiles get played out, all of the players then put cubes on the board based on whether their rule has been met and how many times it has been met based on that new placement, and you're trying to figure out the cards in players' hands before the queen catches up with you and chops off your head. I like deduction and I like cooperative, so I knew I was going to like this one, and in fact, I very much do. I didn't back this Kickstarter, though, so I'm going to have to find another way to get my hands on a copy of this.
I'm sure they'll be around. I think, I don't know what episode it was. I remember I showed off my copy some time ago here on this program. But
yeah.
Yeah, there might be a way to get you that at some point in the future.
I'm certainly hopeful of that, and it's a neat-looking game, too.
Very, very cool. Anything else you played? I think we've reached the end of I certainly played many other things, but those were my discoveries for Dice Tower West.
Yeah, I think that's about the same for me. I did get to play Scout again, which you and I played together at PAX U, and I was saying I wanted to play it again, and I did, and I love it just as much as I did the first time, and we played the rules correctly this time, so.
I had my copy, my Oink Games copy, with me, and taught it to a number of people at the con, so hopefully that was a good discovery for them. I already knew I liked it. Have you played the two-player rules in the Oink version yet?
I have not.
I haven't. Every time I'd set up, I'd be sitting with one person. I'd be like, well, we could try the two-player rules on Scout. And I would be setting up, and then like two other people would sit down like, oh, are you playing Scout? Can I play? I'm like, okay, fine. No two-player rules. So I still haven't played the two-player version. You end up getting a certain number of tokens, and every time you scout, you have to give up a token. So when you run out of those tokens, you can't scout anymore, and that's when the round ends instead of some of the other rules. But yes, I haven't tried that out yet.
That's cool, and I really do appreciate that, some trick-taking / ladder climbing games in that vein are becoming more approachable for smaller player counts. I talked about Hifu earlier that is only 4 or 5. It's nice to be able to play a game like that with 2.
All right. Well, I think that's our adventures, at least some of them, at Dice Tower West. If there's anything that folks want to ask in the chat, I think there's been some lovely discussion up to this point. We can stick around for a couple more minutes, but we should probably check back with that straw poll and figure out when our next episode is going to be. I know I loaded it a while ago as well, but I need to refresh the results.
And it appears that by about a 2-to-1 margin, everyone would like us to revert back to our regular schedule. I think they just want to see us. Did I put the dates in the wrong things?
No, I think that's back to
No, I did.
No, back to regular schedule is in 2 weeks. We'll see you in 2 weeks. That's what they're looking for.
Okay. I worded it. Yeah, somebody pointed this out earlier and I didn't notice, but yeah. So regardless, they voted for March 23rd, so we're going to go with March 23rd.
Yes, which will be 2 weeks from today.
Apologies for the confusing language in the poll, chat. I created it very quickly before we started the show.
Have either of us played the digital version of Gloomhaven? No.
I have not.
I would like to. I feel like that may be the time that that I can actually get it to the table. I bought Gloomhaven to play with my kids, and we just haven't made that happen.
I've had my copy of Gloomhaven since fall of 2027.
Yeah.
And I punched it about a year and a half ago on stream live, and I still haven't played it. It's become kind of hilarious at this point that I've still not played Gloomhaven, but...
Yes. Any new non-board gaming media you watched or read, and then Kabuki's like, Picard? Trying to lead us into the Star Trek discussion.
I mean, well, what's interesting, and this might actually shock you, Eric, is I'm behind. I have not watched last week's episode of Discovery or the first episode of Season 2 of Picard.
Okay.
Because I'm rewatching Season 1 of Picard right now, and I didn't have time to finish that before the con. I'm close. I think I have like 3 episodes left in Season 1. And then I've had a really busy week catching up with work from being gone for a week. And so I
Sure.
just haven't, I think this weekend is going to be me catching up on things like that, basically.
Yes, I have watched Picard, but not last week's Discovery, and now tomorrow there will be a new one, so I can
Yeah.
binge a little bit. But yes, Picard was a lovely start with, and this isn't a spoiler, a remix of the theme song,
I've heard that.
which is surprised me. I didn't know that they were going to be redoing the theme. It still has the same themes, but it is a reimagining of those themes, which was a surprise. And I was like, "What? What? Huh? New
I'm very
music?"
curious to hear it because I loved the season one theme song. And so I'm really curious to hear what they've done with it. And they just wrapped today or yesterday on the final season of Picard, season three. They finished shooting
Oh
season
wow.
three officially. They wanted to get all of it made and just
Okay.
done. And so yeah, like all of Picard now is in the can, so to speak. I know they're probably not obviously shooting on film, but whatever the story is, it's set, it's happening,
Wow. Okay.
it's from the talk of the people who work on the show. They seem to be very excited about where it is headed. And I just hope they don't make us wait too ridiculously long for season three, considering it is already shot. They can just keep editing right now, and then early next year, hopefully give us season three.
Yeah. I mean, there's no shortage of Star Trek at this point, which is awesome and fantastic. What if we can find one more question to hit? What do you think? Any of these others that
Let's
flew by?
see.
I'll let you pick one.
Oh, that's actually a good question, Kirk. Kirk asks, has your in-person gaming frequency recovered from the pandemic? I would say for me, it has not. Prior to the pandemic, I was running a weekly meetup group that met every Thursday evening. And then I was often gaming at least one other day a week, sometimes with just friends at my house or other places. But like once a week was a definitive. At this point, I am still not going out to any public meetups because I am still high risk. And even though I've had COVID once, you can get it multiple times. So for me personally, I'm not ready to do that yet. Although I did speak with one of the friendly local game stores here in Vegas that had a booth at the con. They do a Thursday night meetup now. And so I basically said, chances are once I decide to venture back out, I'm probably just going to go there and tell anyone that was in my former group, hey, that's our new Thursday night meetup location.
Okay.
So yeah, that's I have been gaming every Sunday morning online, which is kind of nice. I have a friend that moved to Sweden back this past summer, and I miss her a lot. And so she and I and another friend of ours play games on Board Game Arena every Sunday morning. Well, it's Sunday evening for her because she's 9 hours ahead. But
Yep. I am not. I'm in a weird spot right now because of the move. My usual game group, my group, is now an hour away. And I, at one point, was trying to get down there once a month or so, but around the holidays, things got busy, and then there was an Omicron surge, and so I sort of took a step back and haven't been back since the holidays. And I need to. Maybe I might be able to make it down this weekend, and fingers crossed that can happen. But I have been doing some occasional gaming with the folks at the Portal. In like very small groups. I'll head over on a Thursday afternoon and play a couple games with them, which helps me get some review games played and try out some new stuff. And they're excited about playing new stuff. And so that's sort of been my more frequent game group recently. And then occasionally playing stuff with the kids. But as far as getting back to my friends that are an hour away, that's been harder to make happen. What I need to do is throw a party and have them come over. And try out the game room. And we're getting close to making that happen, I think, in the next month or two. So that's my hope, is to get back more into a regular, schedule. Of course, there were 2 conventions in the last month that I also had to take time. Instead of leaving the house to go play games, knowing that there was going to be a week of playing games, it was probably best not to do that.
well, maybe at some point in the near future we could discuss how to host a board game meetup at your house for friends as a
Yeah.
topic. We've probably covered something similar in the past, but we've been doing this show for enough years that it seems potentially like there's some good discussion to be had there.
Indeed. And that maybe that can be the top of the list as we discuss things for 2 weeks when we will see everyone again.
Absolutely. So thank you everyone in the chat for joining us. Thank you again to those of you who were at Dice Tower West and came up to either Eric or myself and said hello. We really, really do appreciate
Much
it.
appreciated.
Per your votes in the straw poll, we are going to say that this is the new normal, and that means our next episode will in fact be in 2 weeks. So if you have it set in your calendar somewhere, you need to adjust because we've reverted, we've switched weeks. So our next episode will be March 23rd, always a Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And until then, I'm Crystal Dax.
I'm Eric Summerer.
And you've been watching Dice Tower Tonight.
Thank you so much for watching. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. Crystal and I will see you in 2 weeks for new adventures. Our show is supported by viewers like you. Thank you. Dice Tower Tonight is produced by Crystal and me with assistance from Tom Vassell, Mike DeLisio, Roy Candidate, Chris Yee, and Rob Searing. Our incredibly simple addition instructions provided by Summit. Timothy Pinkham composed our theme, and hosting is provided by GameNerds.com. Give us your feedback on the Dice Tower Guild at Board Game Geek on Facebook or Twitter, or by emailing us at crystal@dicetower.com or eric@dicetower.com. You can hear more from Crystal on the Board Game Blitz podcast, and I can soon be found giving Tom a hard time on The Table with Tom and Eric. Find those shows and more at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all of us at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming.
Fun gaming!
Good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Where's the button? Here it is.